business establishments. And we have Charlie Barano from the Municipal Association of South Carolina, who is the expert on all this. So he's going to talk with you, tell you how this new business law is going to be implemented and what to expect. It was a lot for just us to absorb. There's a lot of changes. So I guess we can pretty much say everything you ever knew about a business licensing, you kind of forget because it's all been changed. And Charlie's got a slideshow here, and if you have any questions, I'm sure he's here to answer those, and that's why we're doing this. We want to try to make it as smoothly as possible for all business owners, no matter if you're, a $1 million business or the home crafter. We want to try to help you and help you grow your business, and want you to know that the chamber is here for you, the town is here for you, and of course, we can always tap into the association. If we don't know the answer, we'll find somebody who does. And our goal is to help you grow your business and be as prosperous as possible. So if we'll all just stand up and let's do our pledge, and we'll do a prayer after that, and then we'll turn it over to Charlie Barano. Okay? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kenneth, would you lead us in prayer?
Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come out and learn about the new tax laws or business license law for the town of Bethune and Kershaw County. Father, we ask you to be with us, give us clear understanding of everything that goes on. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
All right, at this time, we'll turn it over to Charlie Barano.
I commend all of y'all for coming out on a rainy night in Bethune to hear about business license. So, but it's good to be here. I'm Charlie Barano. I'm with the Municipal Association. I formerly, for 18 years, was with the city of Greenwood. I was their city manager, so that kind of gives you a little bit about my background. Just for helping of me, who's a business owner or business? Good. The Municipal Association, just so you know, the Municipal Association, we are a nonprofit that's been around for 90 years that helps cities and towns in our state, the 271 cities and towns in our state. And so one thing that we do is education. Another thing that we do is assist with tax collection and the management of the business license program. And I will go through that. So what is a business license? And bottom line, yes, it is a tax. And it really dates back to 1872. So while this change is new for the Bethune, business licensing is not. It has been a common function in our local government. It's an excise or privilege tax. It is the right for you to be eligible to do business in a jurisdiction. Both cities and counties, some counties, there's about, I think 7 of the 46 counties or so that charge a business license. About, I don't know, somewhere around 240, 245 of the 271 municipalities in the state charge a business license. These are where the state law, and if you want to stay around afterwards, I will be happy to email any of you this presentation. However, I can assist. I'm not going to dig into this, but if you're curious about the state law, it's in the state statute that allows business licensing both for municipalities and counties. And as the mayor mentioned, and why we're here tonight is to discuss Act 176, and that was a state law that was signed by the governor at the end of 2020. Thank you. The pandemic gets me confused on my timeline, but the town had to implement it this year, and so we will go through that. And again, Act 176 is in the code here. It's not an income tax, Again, it's a privilege tax. It's an excise tax. It's a charge for the right to do business, to make money, sell, whatever it is, in the town of Bethune. And so the association has been involved in this for a long time, many, many decades. Business licensing is typically one of your city, your town's biggest revenue sources. The town, it could be anywhere from 10 to 50, 60% of some of our municipalities' budgets. I suspect here in Bethune, I don't know, I would suspect it's probably in the 20-25% range. But a town like our beach towns, Edisto, Sullivan's, Folly, all of those municipalities, business license can be upwards of 50 to 60% of their budget. So it is a critical revenue source. And certainly I get the point that all of us would like to pay less in taxes. However, your local government has to pay for services, public safety, cleanliness, trying to revitalize your community to bring in more business. That costs money. And there's very few sources of money that your elected officials have access to. One is a business license. It's important to be business friendly. We don't want to be overbearing, but the key term in business licensing is fair. If everyone would pay their fair share for doing business, then the system will work. And so it's important that everyone pays fairly. Consistency is also important. And that's where we want individuals to be paying the correct amount. And so the association has been working with our municipalities. It's based on your gross. So the gross amount of revenue that you do as a business owner, that is the calculation for your business license. So Act 176, and I should have said, I noted the municipal association. So the association has been in this effort for decades, many, many, many decades, helping cities with the business license. The association actually is the one that wrote the business license ordinance that the town adopted. We have been writing that ordinance for decades and updating it as it has been challenged in court. It's gone all the way to the Supreme Court, and through those challenges, it's been upheld. And so the association, in partnership with our 271 municipalities, has kept that document legal. We've ensured that it's legal, has been vetted by attorneys, municipal attorneys, and has been upheld in court. Now, that's not to say that your council has to follow the association's ordinance. Certainly, they could adopt their own under the state law, but again, we believe that the system that the association recommends is legal for all of our municipalities. So, Act 176, again, I've already mentioned the state statute. How did we get to Act 176? And the biggest thing a number of years ago, business licensing has been debated really for the last, again, I've been in government, I guess, 25 years, but for the last decade, really, it's been hotly contested. Certainly, there are individuals that don't want to pay it. And I think we all get that. We all would like to not have to pay taxes. That's not reality. Other people, other businesses had legitimate concerns. And many of these were businesses that operate in multiple jurisdictions. Think about a pest control company, a plumber, a landscaper, somebody that's operating in a lot of jurisdictions. And certainly here, we might only have 3 or 4 municipalities. Well, think about a fast growing area like Charleston. So Charleston probably has 20, 30 municipalities that a business may service in that area. Well, previously, municipalities had different due dates. You know, Bethune's due date may have been, I don't know, y'all's were January, was y'all's April, January?
September to April.
Okay, September,
September to August.
August, yeah. So here was September to August. Well, we could have gone to Mount Pleasant, and I believe Mount Pleasant's was October. We could have gone to the city of Charleston, and theirs may have been January 1. So my point is, these businesses were arguing, and validly, they had a good point, that they were having to hire a staff person just to track down all these dates and keep up with it. Then, you know, the structure was different. Some municipalities had different structures set up. And then it wasn't customer friendly, was what many of the businesses argued. And certainly we conceded to that point, the association, on behalf of all municipalities. You know, businesses like a pest control company were looking for a one-stop shop where they could go to a website, a portal, and log all of the gross that they did in every municipality. So if they did work in 30 municipalities, they could go 10,000 Allendale, 20,000 Mount Pleasant, 50,000 Goose Creek, and then hit calculate and pay one tax. So the association heard that, and even before Act 176 was adopted, the association, on behalf of all of our municipalities, we contracted with a third-party private company, software writer, to write a piece of software, an online piece of software that would do just what those businesses were wanting, that would calculate based on preloaded information, that would calculate the business license if you operated in multiple jurisdictions. So those were some of the issues that were going on. And so Act 176 was adopted. It is based on a class schedule, which is based on the North American Industrial Classification Code. I'll go into that in just a minute. I've already mentioned there's a standard due date. And so the standard due date is now by April 30th. So in the next few weeks, your business license is due here in Bethune. Used to be August 30th, end of August, but now we're moving in, and some people have asked, well, why April 30th? Well, that was an agreed upon statewide date that we felt like lined up after most businesses had paid their federal or state taxes, and they would know what their rate was for the prior year. So that was the reasoning for the May 1 through April 30th. We now have a standard statewide application. Now the town does not have to use that application, but they have to at least accept it. So the town could have its own business license application, but the association's model application is the statewide model that has to be accepted. Some people don't like it. I certainly respect that. I understand. Looking from a small town application, it's a very big city application. And so it's got a lot more questions than you really need for Bethune, but it's a standard application statewide. And then the portal, the local revenue center went live. And this, I'm gonna give you all a lot of information, but I think it's very important that you understand how much the business community and local government work together to try our best, we're not perfect, to protect everybody. Certainly the business community with the state legislature, they were very concerned about the association having access to this data. There was a feeling, a thought, that maybe the association would, on behalf of cities and towns, mine that data to develop new taxing streams. The association had no intent to use this information at all. But certainly we respected that that was a concern. So the association gave the software to the state of South Carolina. So the association paid for it to be written. The software now sits on a state server that is housed by revenue, the state revenue, fiscal and affairs department. The association has no access to the data. We don't want the data. We make no money. We're not involved in the online process at all. All we did was, on behalf of all 271 cities and counties, like I said, 7 counties, I believe, we paid a vendor to write a piece of software that businesses could pay in a one-stop shop. So it's important that y'all understand what went into that, and we gave, again, we conceded, said we don't have a problem with that, because our goal is to, again, keep this revenue for local government, but also make it business friendly. Now, the one area that we would not concede with business license standardization, many businesses wanted a standard rate structure, and the association would not concede, where in essence every city would charge a standard rate. We would not concede there. We believe, the association believes, and I know we've got at least 3 or 4 council members here, we believed that it was each individual town's responsibility to set their rates. In state government, we call that home rule. It's the responsibility of these people in this room to elect the officials here for the Bethune Town Council, and it should be only up to them to establish the rates. And we were able to, we got concurrence with the various business communities, state legislature, and Act 176 still allows the councils to set the rates. So if Bethune feels that their rates need to be low, they can do that. If they feel like they need to collect additional revenue and raise the rates, they can do that. If they don't want to have a license at all, they can do that. So again, we felt like the state should not be dictating to Bethune what rates it should charge. So we didn't concede there, and we were able to win that argument and move forward. So again, I've already mentioned the model ordinance. We have crafted it for many, many, many decades, getting that system working. It used to be based on another, and for those of you that have had a business for a long time, you may remember the Standard Industrial Code, or the SIC code. It used to be based on SIC codes. It's no longer based on that. It's based on the North American Industry Classification System. So every business in our country is assigned, and I believe it's a 7-digit code. And so if you're a plumber, you have a 7-digit code. If you're an accountant, you've got a set. It may be 6. I apologize. So, one of y'all in here may know it's a standard code. So depending on what code you have, the IRS is studying all of this, and they know your profitability. And profitability changes in new businesses. 15 years, 20 years ago, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have all these new businesses get created every year. And so the IRS is constantly studying the business license system. And it's based on profitability. That's how our class system is based. And I'll have a structure of the system in a minute. So if your profitability is low, and an example would be fast food restaurants. Their margins are very tight, profitability is low. They're going to be in a class 1, the lowest class. If you have a high profitability, and I may try to think of something, an architect, or typically your professional businesses, their profitability is higher. So they're going to be in a higher class. In our class structure, there's 8 classes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And typically you see the rates increase in a standard increment over those 8 classes. And so the more profitable you are as a business, the more taxes you make or pay. In the less profitable area, the less you pay. And again, it's in an ordinance, which is law, that is passed by a town council here. Any questions on the structure? This is new for Bethune, but this has been the standard structure that the association's model ordinance has followed for decades. Previously, Bethune, you had a class structure, but you were based on the amount of gross. So, for example, your class 1 was 0 to 5,000. Class 2, if you did $5,000 to $10,000 in business, you were a 2, and so on. It was based on an increment of gross. We don't believe that is I don't want to use the term legal, but a correct method to calculate the business license. It really needs to be based on the profitability of the business. Our website has a lot of great resources, masc.sc. We have a handbook that is really written for citizens, the local government, how to administer the business license tax, but it's a great resource for businesses too. We also have a business license association where we teach classes and try to educate on the proper collection and management of the business license system. Just a little bit on Bethune's new schedule, and I know this is hard to see, but so the new rate is, and this is not typical. If we were to go to the city of Camden, they're going to have a different rate structure. But you can see here in Bethune, for the first $2,000, everybody is going to pay a flat $20. And then for the next, in increments of 1,000, for every $1,000 of revenue, you're going to pay 85 cents. And that's the standard across all categories. Typically, you would see in most municipalities, it start out at 20, and then it would go to 25, 30, 35, 40, and the same. The lower rates would start out at the bottom, 85 cents, and then it might go a 10-cent increment to 95 cents. But here in Bethune and in most of the small towns, this was set up to try to give a system that was easier to administer for not only the staff, but for the business communities. Now in the years to come, if Bethune can get a little bit sophisticated and get better use of new computer systems in its data, it may be able to readjust these rates. And so, for example, maybe it drops the base rate to $10 and then goes to 15 or something. You get my point. And it may be able to drop the per 1,000 here, but then increase it as it goes. So you get my understanding that, again, it should be based on profitability. And as I mentioned, class 1s have the lowest profitability. Class 7/8s have the highest. We had to work with the town to set up these rates. That was another component of Act 176. With the rates that the council has adopted, we had to ensure revenue neutrality. And basically what that means is the state legislature did not want cities to use this establishment of this new law to get a windfall of new money. And so we had to, when we worked with these rates, we took the town's existing rates, ran it through a spreadsheet to make sure that the town would collect about the same amount of money as it collected when we studied this, and that would have been 2020. Now that doesn't mean that everybody's going to pay the same amount. Some businesses are going to pay a little more, some businesses are going to pay a little less. Some of you may pay less than you paid in the other system. But the town should get close to revenue neutral as what it had received in business license revenue back a few years ago. Again, this is the former class schedule where it was based on a 0 to 5,000 paid $20, 5,000 to 10,000 paid $40, and then all the way down there. Now I will tell you Typically, and you could go to the city of Camden and you would see this, most municipalities have a little bit of additional language right here. The two things that are there, first, typically it is common and we recommend that cities double the rates for outside vendors. And you may say, well, why in the world would you do that? Why are you overtaxing people from outside? And it's not. Here's the reason for the double taxation. And I will tell you that currently Bethune does not, even in the updated ordinance, it does not have the double rates. Here's why you do double rates. So let's think about a plumber that is here in the town. His or her business is located in the town. He or she is paying property taxes on their building, on their vehicle, and all the equipment to the town of Bethune. So they're paying the business license and the property taxes. Well, let's think about the plumber in Kershaw County or Camden that's not paying any of those property taxes to one of those municipalities. So their cost of business is less. So they can come in to Bethune and do plumbing work in competition with this headquartered plumber paying less taxes than he or she would have to pay. So that is the reason for the double business license to outside people when they come in to do work, or the recommended, because it tries to create a level playing field. The next thing that we recommend is a declining scale. So certainly, you could, right now Bethune may not have that, but hopefully one day y'all are going to attract a business that might do $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, $20 million, $100 million in revenue. And we have crafted this ordinance to where these rates here, as you start hitting these high gross amounts, your rates will start declining. And so as you get over $1 million, it declines. Right now, Bethune's system is not set up that way. There's no declining scale. So just a kind of a quick, calculator of what this would look like. So a business generates $100,000 here in the town. Again, as I've already showed you, the flat rate for the first 2,000 is $20 across the board and 85 cents per thousand. So again, that $100,000 business would pay that first 20,000. They would pay 85 cents on each thousand of the 98,000 for a total business license fee of $103 due to the town. And again, this would be in there if there was a declining scale, but again, the town doesn't have that yet. And certainly we could work with council in the coming years and add that if needed. So with that, I'll kind of hush and answer any questions that y'all might have. Hopefully I made that easy to understand it. we'll admit that business license can be a little complicated. We're trying to make it more uniform, but still protect council's and your community's ability to establish your own rates. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Charlie, according to this new law for income tax return.
Right.
So when they come in to apply for a business license, we do have the right to ask for their income tax return.
Sure.
And if
So,
they don't show us their income tax return, can we deny them their business license?
So the question is, can you verify someone's, the gross number that they've put on the application? And yes, our model ordinance does include language in the ordinance that says that the city keeps the right to ask for a tax return. Why do you do that? Why would you want to do that? Well, it goes back to that first slide that I told you there. Let's be honest. We're all human here. If we are and some of us in this room, we might do the right thing and put the full amount. I can tell you, having worked in a city for 20 years, not everybody does that. And a lot of people put way under. Let me say it again, way under. And so it's not fair to the business owner that is honest and does the right thing and pays the right amount to have another business that underreports. Now, certainly, businesses, I don't want you meddling in my business, and you know, that's the system we live in. You have to submit that. To the town, we're encouraging the town, and I know that they're doing that. We encourage towns. The towns can get state tax return information from the state. The State Department of Revenue will share submissions with the town. So in addition to asking for tax returns, it's incumbent upon the staff at the town to also ask for the State Department of Revenue information to, again, make sure to keep people honest. And it's, a lot of people will say, well, the town's just trying to collect more money and get more tax. It's not. It all boils down to this one word, fair. It's only fair if we keep it fair. And so your last question was, can we deny a business license if someone refuses to, I think you would not issue it. You would not issue the business license. And then if it's not issued and they refuse to get it, the step that you would take is that, and this would be something we'd have to work through, but you would have to, it would be just like code enforcement, where you would have to sign a summons, basically a ticket on that business for operating without a license. You would have documented all of that in writing. You would have, sent them a letter, nice letter. You're refusing to give us, to verify your taxes without the verification. We can't issue this. Until we can issue this, you're operating without a business license. And with that ticket, you would bring that individual before the municipal judge, and that's the way that you would have to deal with it. You don't want to have to go there. You really don't. And remember, we train this, we don't want to keep that federal tax information. You in the office, and for business owners, all they want to see is your tax return, look at it, make sure it matches, give it back to you. You know, put a little note, I checked it. The town should not be keeping your tax returns. Shred it, give it, I wouldn't even, just give it back. All we want to do is verify, have it. And most larger cities have been doing, this is not something new. It is for Bethune and our small communities. I suspect in Greenwood, where I was a city manager, we probably have been verifying tax returns over a decade now, maybe 15 years. I know Camden does it. And you say, well, why do you do it? After you have seen how some businesses have underreported, it's sad. There's no other word to describe it. And it's not fair. So, and again, the better the city collects that information and collects fairly, the easier, more effective these elected officials can do their job and keep rates fair. So it all ties together. Yes, sir.
Question, what if the business that filed for an extension on their taxes would have filed?
Yeah.
Are you looking at?
No, again, we want to be business friendly. So I think you could allow them to estimate what they think it is. And then they could clean it up later. Again, you would make that note in the file and move on. That's what I would do. Again, we want to be as friendly as we can, but be fair.
Charlie, could we base it off of the previous year?
You could.
Revenue,
You
and then-
could. Whatever they're
Yeah.
comfortable
You could
with.
issue it, I swear, it kinda seems like it'd be close.
Yeah.
So, the follow-up on what Geraldine said, they may as well go ahead and present the verification when you apply, because we're going to get the information anyway.
That's
Through
right.
the Department of Revenue.
Right,
So, we'll get it, and I think if they present it, that little formula that you just put up,
right,
show them that number is going in that top box.
correct,
The number that is presented to us.
right.
On the tax returns is what's going in there, and if you overestimate,
It-
then you pay too
Again,
much.
we, when I was in the city of Greenwood, I signed hundreds of checks
Yeah.
yearly where people overpaid.
Yeah.
And we would send that money back. You know, we're not wanting, we want fair. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Because I actually do taxes.
Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to get a ton of this information, because we do lots of them.
Sure,
So I'm in the city of Camden.
Right.
And my biggest question is just from the city's and the town's perspective.
Yeah.
Are you looking at your federal return for gross numbers?
yep,
So in a place where you have multiple states that are attached, or when you said, and at one point you said it's over gross.
right,
So our original understanding was it's over gross if you were not selling, if you were a plumber, a carpet person,
Right.
who was, doing different things like that.
sure,
And you had a gross sales of 100,000, but only 25,000 of those were within the city limits, then the other 75 was excluded. Is that not what this is saying? It's saying if you had gross of 100, regardless of where
Correct.
you did the work,
correct.
your 100 is what you.
Wherever
paid.
you're domiciled, so wherever that business is, wherever if their federal tax ID number has an address inside the city of Camden, they've got to pay on the full amount.
So no longer is it outside, it's wherever, it doesn't matter point of sale.
It's always been, the way that we've written, have encouraged this to, it should have been managed, it's all. Now, I can't tell you what different jurisdictions did. Now, there are some deductions, and there are unique circumstances, so don't get me wrong, that handbook is, I think, a copy of it. There are circumstances, so, there are some exemptions, so let me be clear that it's not that simple. But if that, whatever business in Camden, well, let's say that they come to Bethune and do work, or they go to Kershaw and do work, or they go to Sumter, wherever, and they have to get business license, they would deduct that amount from that total. They would not have to pay double, basically.
And so at what point do you determine in a municipality that you're required to pay in that city? Is it $1? You think $1 or over?
Help me know.
Like say my business was in town, but then I decided to come to Bethune and do a bunch of work as well.
Right.
Is there a point where I'm required to have a business license within Bethune? Or am I just paying it all to the city of Camden?
No, you would, if you come into Bethune, at that point, you're making money in Bethune, and you have to pay the privilege to do work in Bethune. You have to now get a Bethune.
But you
Yeah.
deduct what you pay.
You would not pay, if you were in Camden, you wouldn't be paying on that amount to Camden.
So what you would do, I guess, what you would have to do as a tax preparer, well, when you're giving your stuff to your tax preparer, they need to know that you've done business in all these different entities
Right.
so that the tax preparer will know what to give the business, so. yeah,
Yep.
And that's
it's a
all required,
deduction.
is knowing them, for them leaving it to the business owner to be responsible.
Because some businesses do better record keeping than others.
Yeah, you
I was just
deduct.
curious, I just wanted to
Yeah.
know that none of that part of it had really changed.
No, no.
So to follow up on that, how would the town of Bethune verify the income on the application if they're presenting the tax return for the business of Camden? How is the town of Bethune gonna know they only did $20,000 for the business in the?
Typically, you would ask for those where it's like a one-time job, or you would ask for the contract, and you would say, if you're doing Joe's roof for $5,000, well, can I see a copy of the contract? And you would have that copy, and you would show that to verify the amount.
So in that case, no tax return required.
Correct. I mean, again, there's some common sense logistics that have to be done for managing this system.
You mentioned the application as well.
Sure.
So you had mentioned a standard statewide application, is that only for new businesses, or is that for?
It's for renewals and new businesses, that's correct. But municipalities can still continue to use, if they choose, their current application.
And is that, you said that was done, I guess, through like a portal type thing?
Yeah, and let me explain the portal too.
Charlie, can you pull up one of the applications?
Yeah. I apologize, I didn't bring it. There may be one in the back of that book.
I should have brought a blank one.
I did-
We
I
have
didn't
some
either.
that filled out.
Yeah.
Let me see, I have it on my email.
A code clearance form, a law enforcement inquiry, notice of assessment?
No.
Here it is, I got it. Let's see if I can get it pulled up. Alright, I got it right here, Charlie. Do you need me to email it to you?
No,
real
I'm
quick?
gonna pull this up.
Got it here.
And can you do the application online, or does it?
For some cities, yes. For some cities, no. It varies from city to city. Now, certainly, here is the standard application. Is that pulling up? Let's see. I'm not sure how to mirror my. Let's see.
Charlie, you want me to email it? Got
Hold on
it?
just a second. Let's see if I'm it out
Here.
there. Well, I have it up if anybody wants to see it. I can't get it up there, but, well, let me.
I just emailed it to you.
Come on. Sounds like it's raining. Okay, so this is what the standard application looks like.
Let me get it, Charlie.
It's hard to see. You can't, I had to cut the bottom of it off. It's longer than the screen. But if you did a project or one-time job, you would enter that amount here. You would put all the information, and then your gross number gets put down in these slides, these blanks that are not on the screen. But the question was, can you pay online? It depends. It varies. Most of your larger cities, you can pay online. Now, with the portal, I would note the portal, we talked about that. Yeah, where we said and we're not calling it the portal, it's the Local Business License Renewal Center. That is only for renewals. So if you're a plumber, and remember, or I talked about a pest control company, and you're operating in 30 jurisdictions, if you want to renew your business licenses in those 30 jurisdictions, you can go online and do that. Now, I will tell you that this is the first year of the portal or the Local Revenue Center. And of our 250 some odd cities and towns, plus 7 or so counties, of the cities, only about 140 are on that portal right now. Bethune is one of the ones that's not in it yet. We're gonna get there. If you can imagine the complexity of getting 250 some odd different jurisdictions in the same system. So this first year, the bigger communities are the ones that are in that system. Bethune will be in it next year. So this year you can't renew online for Bethune in the system. I don't know how many businesses would have used the portal anyway for Bethune. You're gonna have to pay the credit card processing fee you know, most folks are still gonna wanna come to town hall and see these beautiful smiles here, and, but anyway.
Do you know about the other towns in Kershaw County, if Camden or
I would suspect
Elgin?
Camden is definitely in.
Okay.
Elgin, I don't know, I could check. The mayor there's on it all the time, so she's probably got it and got them uploaded too.
Okay.
Kershaw's not, Kershaw isn't yet.
Yeah, but Elgin would probably be, yeah. But again, you know, yes, ma'am.
We are starting a new business.
Sure.
Or a business, starting on May 1st, but it's not Kershaw County, it's from Chesterfield County.
Right.
So, and I went online to try to do this application, I got all lost, and another little girl went on to do hers, and she got scanned out of $489.
Oh, my goodness.
Do we do a scan, ours is just crafts, and,
Well, first and foremost, are you operating in a municipality?
will be.
So,
Yes, we will.
which jurisdiction, or am I?
How do we know that? We don't know that.
Becky. Yeah, but
Are
y'all
you-
are on the Secretary of State.
Are y'all gonna be in McBee working, or?
Yes.
Okay, so you would go to McBee Town Hall, talk with Tisha, and get their application, and, she can walk you through that process.
But we need is it the EIN?
She's setting up a new business.
Oh, so you've got to go through through the Secretary of State's.
Do the standard application, because when I went on, it had all these LLC, it had nothing about craft.
Yeah, you would want to, if you're gonna be operating out of McBee, you will want to use their application. They may not be using the standard. So go by and talk with, I think it's Tisha, that
Okay, so then if we came over here, if we came to Bethune to do a vendor event, because we live in Bethune,
sure,
and I go up there and Miss Doe says, I need your, tax information, well, too bad, you're not getting my personal.
yeah,
I don't have one because we knew, we
Right.
just started, so what
right.
happens?
Okay, I think she's saying, I wondered, I kinda talked about it, she's trying to set up an actual business through the Secretary of State.
Right.
There are two different things here. Once you set your business up, then you use that number that's assigned to you for your filing, then you
Correct.
get your business licensing. I think she's got two different things going on
I got to have the tax ID
You
first.
want an employer ID.
here. Yes.
I'll tell you where to go to get one of those.
Yeah. And then, once you get that, then you get your business
But
license.
she raises a point that this council may think about, and this is something that towns have done, we did in Greenwood. Let's say y'all want to have a craft fair in this room.
Yeah,
20 crafters maybe, I don't know how many you could get in here. Well, each one of those crafters is a business.
right.
Now, the way Bethune's ordinance is set up right now, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, you're gonna have to pay that $20. And we may all say, well, a crafter, I don't know, for a Saturday craft show, you may only do a couple $100. Your goal is to get your name out there and hope somebody's gonna pick up your card and buy your stuff maybe online, or so this council's got to decide, is a craft show festival something that we want to generate excitement for the town? And if it is, we may need to amend our ordinance. So in Greenwood, we had within our business license ordinance, we had an event section where we would allow the event to obtain a license on behalf of all the vendors. And so instead of, the event would pay $100, $150, and then they charge the vendor $2.50, $5, I don't know. But we felt like $20 would be probably more than a vendor's gonna wanna pay. And so, again, it's that balancing act of fairness.
Well, as a vendor, and I've been doing for Bethune, I love it, we were paying $30, which is no problem, that carries us a whole year. So every time they would have an event, we were welcome, and our, you know.
And so, right now, the way it would probably be $20. I mean, that's,
But we still got to have the employee ID, or EIN, whatever y'all call it.
to get a business license so she can have that EIN number.
You,
so
you don't
can
have to
get
have the
license.
EIN, I mean, you could still, you're gonna have to show these taxes on, you can either use your own social security number.
Well, that's
I
what.
mean,
Okay.
this is as long as you're telling the government how much money you're making.
So that was the next thing I was about to ask her. If they're using their social, they still, when our training, you told us they have to produce some type of documentation to show the sales.
Yeah, and I
set
mean,
out from your
Again,
personal
I wanna go back to, I'm gonna be upfront that I am not a business license, trained official. So I haven't gotten into the weeds of collecting business license tax. There's gotta be some common sense. I mean, certainly you're not gonna ask for a tax return for a crafter. I just
Yeah.
don't, but, you know,
Could we do something like this? We've started having a lot of festivals, and we don't charge, we have it on our park or have it here, we don't charge a fee to set up. They just, like Wanda said, they buy their one-year license. Could we replace that when you have craft shows for like an event fee? We have done
different
before.
towns, Mayor, different towns handle it differently. I'm just
Okay.
being real and being honest. Some don't charge it. They make a decision that we want this quality of life
Right.
stuff.
Right.
And so they just don't charge it.
Yeah.
Others, like you said, try to find a way, cause they
I mean, we
they
wanna-
wanna be fair,
Yeah.
and so they're trying to be fair. You just kinda have to do the best that you can, so to speak. Yes, sir.
So, I got a quick question.
Sure,
So I do retail sales,
sure.
and what about online businesses? So if I sell something to a customer that's in this town, then I have to pay a tax on that.
Correct.
But if Amazon sends something to somebody's house, do they pay?
They are paying. Well, they're now supposed to be paying, yes. That federal law was passed. Now, as far as a business
Business tax.
license tax, no.
Yes, they pay their sales tax.
They pay the sales
which
tax,
we
but,
pay as well.
correct,
But they don't.
Correct.
They don't pay their business license.
but they don't have a physical I'm not saying it's
So it
fair.
punishes us for being a brick and mortar store.
Yeah,
But then you've also got the opposite, just to pick on it, you might have somebody, and I'm gonna pick on crafters for just a second. You know, you might have somebody who crafts here in Bethune who ships out of state through Etsy,
Yeah.
cause they sell on Etsy, right? Well, they still have to pay sales tax, or they should be, right? And they have to have a business license in Bethune to do that,
Okay.
right? So,
It evens out.
Amazon.
I know.
It's not-
Amazon's a
it's
different
not-
beast.
it's not perfect,
It's
but-
not
We're
fair,
in a
but-
shipping center, and we get stuff delivered for our customers every day.
Yeah.
I have more customers on some days that come in and pick up packages than come into my store to purchase stuff. So,
you've
it's
got.
kind of an insult.
Yeah, you've just got to remember, the city has got to generate revenue to
I
pay,
understand
to pay for services.
I think that the business license should be here. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not, you have to have money to operate.
There's no taxing system that's perfect.
So-
It's not.
I'm just
Yeah, no,
curious
I-
to see if there was anything in there about.
Yeah, it used to be that they didn't even pay the sales tax. I mean, so that's just slowly in the recent years, gotten to be adjusted, so. Which is huge because Kershaw County is a local option sales tax county, Greenwood wasn't, but think about how much is leaking when that sales tax wasn't being paid. It's big.
That tax should be passed on to the customer.
It is, that's right. My goodness, I think it just opened up.
Well, Amy brought up the.
Yeah, again, if the online business has their business, if they're saying it's in Bethune, then yes. But I mean, there's common sense. There's only so much time in the day for your staff to try to figure out who's doing what. And a lot of it boils down to people reporting as they should.
Just being honest.
I think the biggest part, at least we find with ours, is being able to determine your sales tax from your business license tax. They're treated so differently,
Yeah.
where your business
You're supposed to be collecting.
Whether you backed into the account.
All right?
One more.
Okay.
We got a couple more.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Say for instance at, Dollar General,
Right.
and you have, greeting cards being sold or coming there, those vendors, how do we know if they have a business license?
Yeah, and they're supposed to be getting a business license. Most of our cities, and this is a decision for your council. Most of our cities have now hired third-party vendors, like it or not, but there are companies out there that cities can hire to track down people that are not paying their business license. And
I mean, do you just go around and watch?
no, so these companies are nationwide and they know because of their experience that there are 10 businesses operating in Dollar General. And they will look at your business license list and they will say, oh, well, you haven't gotten a business license from ding, 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 ding,
Coca-Cola?
whatever. And they will work to collect that for you for, I think everyone's different. And they will take a fee from the collection to remit that for you. You know, the negative of that is that businesses don't sometimes like hearing from a third-party vendor, but it's a way when you're low-staffed that you try to create fairness. It goes back to fairness. It's not more revenue. But I can tell you that in your Dollar Generals, your C-stores, they have businesses within the business that are not paying business license.
Okay, next, item will be obviously contract workers, construction workers.
Yes, all of them. Subcontractors, the general.
So you have a general contractor and he has all these subs.
Correct.
Each sub needs to have a license.
Correct.
Okay? Next item, go ahead, Matthew.
So you're talking about inside of the business, there's another business. So you're talking about like something like an ATM or?
No, yes, that's an example,
So-
yes.
But what if it's under the umbrella of one company? So if I own.
It depends.
If I own the ATM that's in my business. then-
That's one thing, but if there's a company that is
So
basically,
anything we sell on commission or with,
those get complex. Yeah, those get
my
complex.
vendors will stop selling to me before they get the
Yeah.
town business license.
Yeah.
They, I mean, they just will.
Yeah. Again, these are the situations where the towns have to figure out, because the vendor stores are a new, we had a number in Greenwood where there was an umbrella tenant, and then they would rent a 5x5, 10x10 cubicle to the business, and that business would set up crafts, but there are cities that have written their ordinances in such a way to try to make that more business friendly. But yes, each one of those entities has got to pay a business license.
Okay.
In this, but you know, the convenience store, that ATM, the company may be paying a lease arrangement with the C-store. So it's a transaction, but they're operating in Bethune, so they need a business license for that ATM.
And we can ask to see the lease.
You can, but again, it all boils down to how much staff time and how much you're gonna go after that.
Well, we get some blue lights for it. We'll be on business patrol. These two are on it. They've been through 2 classes and all that. Okay, my next question.
Yes, ma'am.
I went to the construction boring crew today. In the rain.
Right,
ATM's boring in our
Right.
house, in our town.
probably a fiber company.
It is.
Yeah,
We didn't know it. How do you just pop into a town and not tell anybody you're boring holes into the ground? But, you know, I
It
mean,
happens.
So they
they're supposed to have a business license.
got it. Okay. We will catch up with you.
But
Most municipalities, we had one person, that was their only job, was to drive, check. They would stop construction sites, go to every, I mean,
Like code enforcement.
we read the newspaper ads, we read Facebook, that's how they tracked it.
So when it coming back to the AT&T and those things, the companies that we have franchise agreements with, they wouldn't need a
Now,
business.
right, a
license.
franchise agreement is a different,
Yeah.
a franchise is for you're giving them a right to operate in your right of way.
Exactly. I wanna make sure I was clear on that.
Yeah,
law.
it's a different.
We're good, all right?
Okay, another question. If I'm the homeowner and I'm doing work in my home or is, putting on a new roof.
Correct.
So I wouldn't have to have a business license.
Correct.
But if I get an outsider, a friend of mine, but he's licensed to come in and help me,
If you're paying him,
if I'm paying,
if you're paying him, then yes, he's gotta have a license.
I just don't tell. Okay.
Let's see. And the whole goal is not to tax everybody to
It's,
death.
it's fairness, but to be fair, everybody's gotta pay.
Yeah,
And to your point, some get slipped through. I mean, there's no way to catch everything.
You have any questions?
What if it's, I'm gonna use my husband as example.
Don't be telling on your husband.
He's not here to defend us.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, I was waiting for this.
You knew I was gonna do this.
Yes, I did.
He has a little produce stand.
Right,
Our accountant has told us that is a hobby,
right.
and we don't have to do anything about it. We don't have to keep up with it or anything.
You know, I'm not an accountant. I know that there's a certain, she's right there. I know that there's a certain amount, that's a hobby. How much?
$600.
Yeah, so if he's making more than 600,
But see, the problem is being able to keep up with what he's making. It goes out more than it comes in.
I'm
And
just,
we go in the hole level. So,
I'm just,
does he have to have a business license? Half of his land, half the land is in city limits and half is not.
where's the stand?
On number one,
Is the stand in the city?
Yeah.
I think so.
So he has to have a business license.
Yes.
Right.
I told her this the other day. She
Yes,
said,
sir.
but it's a hobby.
Yes, sir.
You know, you stress the importance of across the industries, that there was a different profit margin based off the industries. like
Correct.
Retail sales and
Correct.
groceries and, all the different things. But the tax schedule right there, they're all the same.
Yep, and we hope to work with council to get them to where they're not. The town, you have to understand, the town went from a drastic system based on, this. And it's really hard to go from this to this. And so we have asked the town to do the best that it can to, and remember, last year, the town was not requesting tax returns and verifying. We think that the town's gonna have better data this year. And so better data will then allow the council to change their rates next year and to make adjustments here.
Isn't there something, saying that, isn't there an industry standard? I mean, you're talking about different classifications. I know every town's different, and it all depends on how many different businesses you have of each category
Yeah.
in each town. But you couldn't compare it to something else in other
No,
towns?
there's really no unique way. Some towns, their base rate is $100. Some go up to well over $2-3 per thousand. It depends on the number of businesses in the town. It depends on what services the town's offering. It depends on how big the budget is. There are so many variables. We couldn't just go over to McBee or Kershaw and get their rates and just bring their rates over, and it's not that simple.
I mean, everybody's starting out at $20. I mean, we went down.
Some things can go up and some can go down with $30, they probably just pay 20.
That's right, yeah. Well, let's see what else we got.
Okay, we've received applications already,
Right?
but they did not mail in, their
Payment.
return or anything.
Right.
Documentation. So we have to send those back or call them?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a permanent business, I would, on some of the one-times and some of the smaller amounts y'all showed me, I need to check on those.
Well, on the portal, Charlie, I went into the portal.
The portal, you do have to upload your tax return.
Thank you, I wanted to bring that attention, that you can view it.
Well,
on the portal.
I shouldn't say you have to. If the municipality
Yes.
checks that option, then you have to.
Just for fun, I went on the portal just to pretend like I was a vendor and went to different towns, and everyone I clicked on required. And you upload your tax returns, and there's a disclaimer that says once you upload and it's viewed and you go out of the portal, it goes away. So I guess for us, those that are out of town, would it be okay to email or fax that to us, and then we, have an honor system where you shred that and destroy it?
I mean, you can. I mean, just realize if you keep it, you've got an issue, but you need to shred it. you know.
Shred it.
Yes, sir.
The whole purpose of getting the tax return is for one line item off the tax return.
Correct.
Why couldn't a letter from a CPA do the same thing?
Again, that's up to the town. If they wanted to accept that, again, the town is simply trying to verify. If a CPA would be willing to put their signature on it, I would accept that if I was the business license administrator. And certainly, as our CPA friend in the back knows, some of these businesses get very complex. You have manufacturers, for example, that have a facility in a town with nothing. It's a shell. But they're doing something there that requires a business license. And so many times the CPA will have to generate a statement, and there's a negotiation, so to speak. They will present that, and it will be up to the business license official, the city, to sign off on. Typically, that's what's called a cost-based business license, where you're trying to figure out what cost is going on in that business.
And that's the thing is individual, if you just operate within the confines of a town, then all of your income is based on the business. But
Right.
that being said is, for instance, if I owned a business here in Bethune, but I owned a rental property that was listed underneath my business.
You're supposed to be paying business license on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even though it's not in the town limits,
Oh, no.
so, but that would be considered part of my income, which would see on my gross proceeds.
Is that, do you run that through your federal return?
Yes,
Yeah, I would think you'd have to pay it.
we do. But that's the thing is when you,
It's not in the
when you
town
break it
limit.
down into a
Yeah,
town
but
business
his
license.
business is domiciled in the town,
Yes,
and it's a
yeah.
part of his business.
Oh, wow, okay.
Well, all we want, like you're saying, Matthew, to give an accounting, number, we don't need that. We just need to visually see that number, to verify it, because we're not gonna write that down, we're just going to verify it.
So just out of curiosity, being that she mentioned the rental property. So the average person, say they're doing their business and they're Schedule C, so
Mhm.
it's their individual.
Right.
But then they have a rental property, so a Schedule E. Both of those are taxable if they're within the city limits? I'm only asking for the
Yeah.
business
I
license.
typically
part of
only
this.
ask for the Schedule C. I don't know what the.
The only reason I was
yeah.
asking, because normally you wouldn't pick up rental property on a Schedule C, and that's why I was just curious, is you said that rental would be contact, so rental and Bethune would be considered business license?
The town can and should be charging, when the beach communities have the Airbnbs, there should be charging a business license to that homeowner for that Airbnb or VRBO.
Yeah, we have several realtors that operate, and they're selling property or even managing.
That
property in
realtor is
town.
supposed to be paying a business
Even,
license
yeah, they're domiciled somewhere
in
else in
Camden.
another town.
If you see a sign, for sale sign in somebody's yard and that realtor's in Camden, they're doing business in Bethune.
And if they are, renting or leasing a residence or property, then
Right.
just tell us, what are you making off of that property?
Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, going back to the schedule, for instance, one business might operate several different types of businesses within their.
The ordinance is,
When you split it up into the different tax rates, even though one of them, you're classified as one, would you pay the rates different based off of what?
no, I think the ordinance is written in such a way you pay at the highest rate. You pay at the highest class.
So even if you are in retail sales, which is the lowest,
Right.
then you turn around and,
Again, I would need to look at your circumstance, but typically, there is language in there. There is language when businesses are operating in multiple NEX codes under one shell that you pay at the highest rate.
okay, so the best thing to do would be to put another business.
Again, those conversations are best to be had with your accountant professional.
Well, his dad's one of our council
Yeah,
members.
yeah, no, I
so
understand.
we can have that dinner time conversation with his dad. Better study up, Kevin. Let's see. Event planners, wedding planners.
Yep. Business
Business license, have to produce the contract or whatever you're gonna make off of it that time. Let's see. Oh, yeah, like this, we have parties and things that happen here. You have a DJ that comes in. Gosh, we could just spend a lot of money. Yeah.
Speaking of parties, like a Pampered Chef party or a Norwex party, or if they have those or sell in Bethune, then they should have a license as well.
They should, but, the
Okay.
reality of common sense, are you gonna be able to catch?
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, this is not about business license, but
Sure.
how do you determine, because we have not been able to have proof of a hospitality tax. So if a business A, is, say, making $100,000 a year in business taxes, and they're reporting their part, and business B is making, say, $200,000, and theirs is way over, you can't prove it.
Yeah, we never, in my, 15 years of collecting hospitality taxes, we never audited or went out, tried to verify.
Well, how would you, could you?
I mean, certainly you would be doing the same things where you're looking at what they're reporting elsewhere. You would look at their business license to see if it matches. You would look at their state Department of Revenue to see if it matches. And if those numbers are off,
Well, let me ask you this, and I may not necessarily be correct on this, but since I feel like I live in Camden at times, if you go to KFC or if you go to Lowe's, if you look at the receipts,
It's set
there's
up.
breakdowns.
Yeah.
Bethune doesn't have that. And I'm just being honest, I think we do need that as far as that is concerned.
well, I would think it's gonna be up to, I guess, in your ordinance, I would need to check that with our council. Because are you saying you would want to require the business in the receipt to break it out?
Yes.
Well, I'm talking about for hospitality. I mean, the others, I mean, it is, if you go to KFC in Camden, you see it. If you go to, and Camden has I think I'm still correct on this, they have a special tax. And, which is part of the tourism industry with that. and it's a lot of people that are coming in.
Sure.
I mean, and I hate to call out business, but I'll use the Exxon for example. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't live here that go in there and buy that chicken, and I'm gonna give them a sales pitch. If you hadn't had it, go get it. Cause it's awesome. But, you know, Camden's taking advantage of that with their.
Well, I thought y'all were charging a hospitality
We
tax.
are,
We are.
it's the honor system is what you're
Yeah.
saying, you get
Yeah.
a sheet, they report on it, and when I came in, I said, there's gotta be a way to report it.
Yeah,
I don't know when to look at, that's something, that's another issue.
yeah.
Like my old portable sales system just had a blanket, this is how much tax we pay. A new portable sales system breaks it down into local option tax. So it's a sales.
I think,
All right.
anybody other questions, Shannon?
So we wouldn't pay a hospitality tax, would we? Is that just food and drink?